Hi there, and welcome into Real Conversations, a film podcast that seeks to explore the history of the Reel to Reel International Film Festival presented by the Cleveland County Arts Council. My name is Thomas Manning, and this year Reel to Reel is celebrating 25 years. I'm joined today by Shane Andries and Meg Locke to discuss their work on the short film Sister, an official selection of Reel to Reel 2024. So, Shane and Meg, it's so great to have you all. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. And before we head into talking about Sister specifically, I'd love for the two of you to share a bit about your background as filmmakers and your passion for this art form. When did that ignite for the two of you?
Shane, you go first. You're the real deal.
No. Meg's the kind of engine behind this project, and but I will happily chime in. So I have some history in North Carolina. I was born and raised in Houston, Texas, but I went to drama school at North Carolina School of the Arts and studied to be an actor. And I kind of was always in love with movies and directors. And I happened to go the path of an actor, but very early on knew that I wanted to write and direct. And I had an alumni from School of the Arts, filmmaker, writer named Peter Hedges, that came to our program at NTSA and spoke to being a writer director. And that really kind of got my mind thinking in a different way and started thinking that, okay, I don't have to just do one thing. And so, fast forward, I graduated from school and I worked as a performer in Blue Man Group for a decade and kind of traveled all over the world, performing with that show. And my last year was on tour. We did the North American tour, and I started writing, and I wrote a screenplay and kind of found my footing as a writer. And that was really the beginning of thinking of myself as a filmmaker, and started directing short films and just building an understanding of a kind of cinema vocabulary. And so I started making short films, and one thing led to the next. And I landed with Meg, and she had this beautiful short film and asked if I would direct, and read the script and loved her story and felt connected to what she was trying to do. And we went off and made this beautiful little short.
So I don't have a film background. I have a education, entrepreneurial background, and sort of working with my grief instead of through my grief. I have been a writer for a long time, but just for my, not like Shane, but on a amateur level is what I would say. It was an outlet for me and always has been. And I had worked with a author mentor about doing a memoir in a year in California. And in the middle of that, my sister was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I just couldn't, the title of that was The Grief Sister, because I had dealt with so much illness and death and chronic illness and then hospice and different things for the last 30 years. And so I sort of put it aside. And then in the middle of the pandemic, I was like, I've always wanted to write a screenplay. So I found this course with the Independent Film School, which Shane ended up being one of the mentors in, and was writing this best screenplay. And as it came to it, that's where we met each other. He was never my instructor, which I always think is interesting, Shane, that you were never my one-on-one director friend. It's just that they had all this. Elatier is the owner of the Independent Film School. And I didn't realize we were going to end up making a film. And so when we got done with the script, I ended up having this conversation with Shane and said, I really would like to have you direct it. And he said, I'd love to. He said, can you do this on a budget? I said, I'll raise the money. You help me do it. And I knew I wanted to film it in South Carolina. So I'm a Carolina girl as well. I will say that about my background. I was born in the low country of South Carolina, spent all my formative years in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and York County. And then after a lot of school and different things, I went to Agnes Scott College in Atlanta, but then we moved to Hickory, North Carolina. So the name of my company is Carolina Moon Creative because of my connection with the Carolinas. So that's sort of my background. And then we made this film, and I have loved every minute of it since then. And it really was cathartic and therapeutic, but it just told the story I wanted to tell.
Yeah, and so Meg, you wrote this script and also starred in the lead role, basically playing yourself, or a version of yourself. Was there ever any consideration to cast someone else in that role, or was it always going to be you?
I never saw myself playing this role. And when Shane said, "You're the only person that can do it," and it is certainly inspired by true events, but because of my background with sort of grief throughout my life and different people dying and being a part of that sacred time with them, there were more than one piece of that. And so Alice and Mary Keller are the lead story, but I never saw myself playing it. And Shane can talk to the fact that he brought out the best in me, and it was close to me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I told Meg right away that she has to be in this, and her personal connection to it was so strong. And I had met Meg, and I was not worried about her performance at all. I said, "You will be fine." And I think all the way up to filming, she was so worried about it. I said, "We've got a million things that could, shut us down and be problematic. You are not one of them." And I have to say I was right. Meg was wonderful in this, and she dove in with Jane and Billy, who are professional actors, have been acting for a long time, and she didn't skip a beat. She did a great job and really carried the film in a beautiful way. And one of feedback that I love to hear is when people watch this movie, they don't Meg does not jump out to them as someone who is new at this. I think she gave such a grounded performance, such an emotional performance, and something that's honest and pure and really has resonated with all the audiences that we've been able to show this film to.
I had a great director and I had
Well,
great castmates. I did. I had somebody that believed in me, and that's everything. If somebody says you can do something, you begin to believe you can do it too. And that was Shane from the moment we started until we, to the last cut. So that was really lovely.
Yeah, and then with casting Jane Brooke basically as your sister, what was it in the casting process that clicked and you said, okay, it has to be Jane? Because I imagine that those are big shoes to fill for embodying someone like that.
yeah, I mean, I had met Jane through the program that Meg was talking about, the Independent Film School, and Jane was working on writing a short that she's recently directed herself, and they filmed it in LA, and I just had loved Jane's work and sent her the script and just kind of, pitched her and told her why I was doing the project and why I wanted to make it and my vision for it and Meg's vision for it. And Jane just very quickly was like, sure, I'm down. And that's what's so beautiful about these short films is people come together for a long weekend and kind of put everything aside and put some elbow grease into the project. And Jane was amazing in every way. Just gracious with her time, gracious with everyone on set, and I just thought was, I would be so lucky to work with actresses like that the rest of my career. She was just wonderful in every way.
It's interesting you asked that, Thomas. I'll tell you that was intimidating to think I'm acting with someone that has been in the breadth and depth of roles that she's done. And so she came a day early. Like we're very good friends now. And I went out and helped her with her film. I mean, I adore her and we have become not like sisters, but she would tell you we are very close. And so she says it's the power of yes. And we laugh about that now. She was like, Shane asked her and she went,
Yeah.
yes. Okay. And then came out. I mean, there's no, she was willing to do it, stayed at my friend's house. We've all been devoted since then. And she shared the whole day with me. And by the middle of like the second day together, there was just this incredible vibe with us that I think you feel. And she was so good at that, at making me comfortable and making me laugh and just gracious, just incredibly gracious. And so she is now a dear friend as well as someone who I think did a fabulous job in that role.
Yeah, and Meg, and your sister Mary had the saying that every day is a day, and we hear that repeated in this film. And Meg, I know we could probably sit here for a week straight talking with you about what you learned from your sister over the course of your life. Shane, I'm curious to hear from you, from your perspective, what you learned from Mary from making this film, and just from, I guess, her legacy and what she left behind, and um, how that influenced just the heart that you poured into this film.
I never had the opportunity to meet Meg's sister. I heard so many wonderful stories after meeting Meg, and it just reminded me I have two sisters. And so, Meg's story reminded me of my relationship with my sisters. And everything that she shared before we shot the movie, everything she shared on set as we were making the movie just resonated with me, and I think can resonate with anyone who has a sister or sibling that they just feel so close to. And I think that's what I loved about this movie was, we're looking at this one relationship that kind of came from Meg's experience, but it's so universal in its appeal to, what we can all pull from it from an audience. And yeah, it just taught me exactly what the theme of this movie is, that, these people that we love, they're always with us, even when they're gone. And another thing that I love about this film is that what you can find in little moments in life can come from unlikely relationships. So I loved that relationship between the bartender and Meg's character, where this small meeting in a low country dive bar could turn into such a poignant moment for both of these characters. And I think as we walk through life, it's really important to be open to those small little moments that can give us great impact and can be great turning points for us in our journeys of joy and our journeys of grief and our journeys of change. They don't always have to come from relationships with people that have been in our lives for 20 years. It can be with people that have been in our lives for 2 moments, 2 seconds. And that was another thing that just captured me with that relationship, to give such great life to the relationship between these two sisters.
So, are there any small moments like that that come to mind for you in your life, or for the both of you? Just small moments, small interactions that had a profound impact?
I think what's happened with the film and the festivals that I've attended, it's really interesting when we talk about this universal theme, is that people do connect so deeply to it in their own way. And I think the idea of the bartender, she's kind of shut down completely. She's not in it. This character is not talking. And as the thing goes on, and in her vulnerability, when she sort of gets bumped, which by the way is by Shane, or knocked around, but when she gets bumped, that the bartender begins to genuinely take care of her. And that's my background in hospitality. That's where that comes from, is that's my the idea that we get to serve and how we make you feel, and that's what people remember is how we make you feel. That's what that comes from. But how that character makes her feel is safe. And then the fact that he can then say, those we love never truly leave us. And she believes it that 1 second. So in the festivals, and I hope when we are at your festival and celebrating its 25th year, I hope that we're able to find those moments with your attendees as well, with the film goers as well, because I think that is what will happen. And we just have that Q&A or that quick meeting where somebody says, oh my gosh, and they tell you the snippet of their story, and then that's a part of you the rest of your life, that that. So I think those moments are always around us.
Yeah, and for me, the little moments that Meg found in writing the script, that uh, they were moments of levity between these two sisters in the toughest moments of their lives. Um, and the sisters had a sense of humor that I thought was so real and honest, and it reminded me of my relationship with my sisters. And I've got two, and both have very different relationships with each sister, um, and there's unique qualities between those relationships. But I just love the levity between those two characters. And it happened as they were walking across to the beach. It happens on the beach, in the hospital. There's all these little moments that just bubble up that I just thought were so kind of honest and truthful to the relationships that I have in my life. And I loved that component to the script.
We didn't add this in there, but one of the things that we always used to say is attitude is everything. Might as well pick a good one. And so the good one is, let's just find, how do you experience me? What's the energy I bring? And let's actually find a way to love each other in this exact moment, even when it can be awful. We can still be present for one another. And I think that's what Shane speaks to. But that is a lot of who we are and how we try to be.
Yeah, and Shane, I think saw you in your director statement basically describe this as a love story, and I love using that descriptor for something that isn't definitely not a romantic love story, but it's still a love story all the same. So I appreciated that, and I think that's something that there should be more conversations about that when we talk about just the power of love stories. That it's not just, it doesn't have to just be romantic or something that you'll watch on a date. It can be something like this.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I think all great movies are kind of built around a couple core things, and that human connection, that love between two people, whether it's between siblings or parent and child. Those grand universal themes are really present in any great movie, and it definitely showed up in this one. And we always saw this as a story between two sisters, a love story between two sisters, 100%.
And a little bit before we started recording, we were talking about Billy Magnuson, and as we talked about him as the bartender. And I think you and Billy go back to UNC School of the Arts. That's when y'all first came into contact with each other. I'd love to hear a bit more about that collaborative relationship and what it meant to have him on this project.
Yeah, so Billy and I went to drama school together years ago, and we've worked on things on and off, and then have just been, great collaborators for years and good friends for years. And a couple years ago, we started a production company together called Happy Bad Bungalow. And so we're in the midst of we've made two films so far, and we're in the midst of making our third. It'll be my feature directorial debut. And uh, I was working on this short film with Meg, and I live in Austin, Texas. Billy was in Austin, Texas, shooting, I think, Spy Kids with Robert Rodriguez. And we were just eating, in classic form, I think we were like having margaritas and eating fajitas or something. And I said, "Oh, I'm, going to direct this beautiful short film in the Carolinas, and I love it. I'm so excited to do it, and I think it's going to be a beautiful piece." And Billy was like, "What's it about?" And so I told him what it's about, and he was like, "Can I play the bartender?" I said, "Yeah, Billy. Yes, of course you can." And so he was shooting a movie in New Jersey when we were doing the short film. And so Billy flew all the way. He finished filming in New Jersey, got on a plane, flew down. We shot his scenes at like 6 a.m. For a couple hours that very next morning, and then he got on a plane like literally his last shot. We took him to the airport, and he got back on a plane and was filming that same day in New Jersey later on. So he really squeezed it in and kind of jumped through hoops to make it work. And but that's I adore working with Billy. We just have a really good time whenever we're making something, and Billy just brings great so many great things to every role that he plays. And I'm excited to see Billy do more of this. I mean, I think this is just a sliver of what Billy can do in the drama space, but he just reads so charismatic and charming in not only his comedy roles, but whenever he does something like this that is kind of a little bit different than what we've seen him do in some of his feature work. It was really exciting to see, and I hope audiences get to see more of Billy in the coming years, because I think he's just gifted and incredible, and at outside of the industry, he's a really great person, and I'd be lucky to work with him again. So.
Meg, is there anything you'd like to share from your standpoint as a screen partner with Billy?
You know, again, I had never acted, and I will say that Billy is larger than life in some ways when he comes into a room and you feel him. I mean, it is charismatic. You know he's there, and yet he envelops you in that talent. Like, I was never outside his magic circle. He drew me into his magic circle and made me better, and was kind and loving and generous. And I think the film reflects that. And I think he and Shane's relationship as a director and actor, let's hope we get to see that many more times in the future. And, Billy has had some comedic roles and has just done, Roadhouse with Jake Gyllenhaal, and that was great. And I loved it. But I know this tender side of him that we all need to see more of. And this leading man that, the camera loves him, but the people that work with him love him. And so, yeah, I'm struck that we had an attached actor of that level on my short film that started out as, working with grief. And so he also showed up for the North Carolina premiere that raised money for hospice for Carolina
Yeah.
Caring Like he flew to Hickory, North Carolina for a premiere to be with us, as did Jane Brooke. The entire group came to raise funds in Hickory for the North Carolina premiere, that raised money for hospice. I mean, I don't know how you ask more from people than that, but that if people don't know who Jane and Billy are, they do now. And Shane and his wife and his family came, they surrounded us in love. And so, you know, I am so proud of what we did, but I'm also proud of the people I've worked with on this film, and I'm just really grateful.
And a fun little story of, Meg diving in and just playing so well with Billy and Jane is I think the first scene with Billy and Meg, Billy comes in and like I said, he brings so much energy to set. And they were about to run lines right before we started filming, and Billy just dives right into it. And Meg looks at me like a, deer in headlights and was like, what's going on? I thought we were running lines. And I was like, yeah, you are. This is it. She's like, well, I didn't know he was starting. And I was like, yeah, that's the goal. It was so natural.
I wrote the lines. Shane,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wrote the script, and we were
I was
not
like,
we were not doing the lines.
I was like, if we do our jobs right, it's not going to feel like you're acting. It's not going to feel like you're saying lines. And I knew that Billy would be a great anchor, and Meg just fell into it, the rhythm so well that it just felt like two people having a real conversation. And that's all I wanted with a film like this, that should just feel organic and real and natural. And yeah, they were wonderful, and a testament to the two of them working together. It was really great to watch.
And Meg, I know you mentioned a little bit earlier how the Carolinas have been such a huge impact on you creatively and personally. What do you think it is specifically about the Carolinas that means so much to? I think it just really finds its way into the soul of your writing and your creativity. Why do you think that is?
So I was born in Bamberg, which is low country, South Carolina, and we had a house at Edisto. And it was very undeveloped, and it was very much like, I mean, when you talk about a house at Edisto, we had no air conditioning, and the entertainment was the beach, period. You didn't go play putt-putt. You didn't do anything. Bingo every other week was sort of the thing. So Mary Millette and I grew up knowing every channel, what pluff mud was, how to crab, how to shrimp. We knew all of that. We knew, and we were at the beach for 3 or 4 months. And then because we loved it so much, Mary Millette ended up starting her teaching career there. And she does go by a double name, by the way. It's Mary Millette. So we just love that. We lived in Rock Hill. My father was an incredible coach and teacher. My mother was an activist volunteer that changed her community with hospice and mental health and HIV/AIDS work ahead of their time. And so I was surrounded by these just gentle souls who made such an impact, but it was in the Carolinas. And so I think my sister and I both felt like that. But you've got to love the low country of South Carolina. That smell of pluff mud and those ocean breezes. And when I get south of the Columbia and I enter into or cross over the Ravenel Bridge and go into that, I know I'm home. And it's a part of who I am. And I think it's in my DNA. And it certainly was in my sister. So for those of you that are not, and you're looking at this, come to the Carolinas, visit South Carolina, visit Charleston, come see what we're about, come to North Carolina, come to Kings Mountain, go visit Boiling Springs. We have everything from Revolutionary War all the way to modern day where you can hike and camp, and you're just not going to find, you may find a place you love as much, but you won't find one we'll love better.
Well
That's
said.
that's a great quote. Put that on a t-shirt.
Let's do it. Do it.
Oh man. Well, Shane and Meg, I can't thank you enough for your time today and for bringing us such a beautiful film. I can't wait for our audience at Reel to Reel to see it. And Meg, can't wait to see you there. Shane, are you going to be able to make it, or a little bit too out of the
I
way
don't
for
think
you?
I'm going to be able to make it.
Ah,
I'm a father of two young girls, and traveling right now is the hardest thing in my life. So I do as much as I can, but between Meg and I, we try to divide and conquer. But I'm super thrilled Meg's coming to the festival. The fact that it's happening where it's happening with you guys is extra special to us. And being an alumni from North Carolina School of the Arts, a festival like this is really exciting for us to participate in.
yeah. Well, thank you guys both again. And is there anything else you'd like to share, make sure our audience knows before we wrap things up, just about this film and about what it means to you?
I just want to give a shout out to our crew and team, especially our director of photography, Ian, who I think, for people that will watch the movie, I think we'll see his kind of amazing work all over this film. He was incredible to work with. I think he's super talented, and kind of like everybody on this movie just went above and beyond the call of duty. And I think I can't list out everyone who worked on this movie, but as you know, and everyone who makes short films knows, a lot of people have to do a lot of things and care about the project. And the entire crew was amazing, and we're kind of indebted to them. And yeah, just wanted to highlight, our wonderful crew on this because they were incredible.
Absolutely. I will also say Matt Ferretti, who is our composer, is from North Carolina as well. Young composer, has done great things, but he and Regina Ferguson and I wrote the original song, Good Grief. And I love that that's part of it. You hear it towards the end, but he and Shane collaborated on the score, and they did a phenomenal job, because I think music, as much as anything, moves us. And I think this film has that in it as well. And I love that piece of it. So shout out to Matt Ferretti, but I'm 100% in agreement, Shane. Our crew, we couldn't have asked for better people. And the people in Charleston and and you'll see them in the credits, but so many people gave just, please film here, please do this. And quick shout out to the Windjammer. I went in, this is the first time my sister and I ever went to, ever. And when I went in and talked to Garth and said, hey, Garth, this is what I did. This is the first bar she was 3 years old. It's the first bar I ever went to. And he said, what do you need me to do? And I said, well, we need to film that. He said, I'll come in at 5 a.m. and y'all shoot and do it. So just the Isle of Palms, Windjammer, all those things, those kind of connections of people that allow us to put our money on screen, and that's what you see, really made such a difference.
Yeah, Trident Tech College.
Trident Tech, yeah, all of it.
Super helpful community to get this film made.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Shane and Meg, for everything you shared today. And it's been a privilege, and looking forward to staying in touch. And I'm really happy that more people are going to get a chance to discover this film. So thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Thomas.
Appreciate you.